If you're a fan of Masters of the Universe, then you probably do not know who this character is, and that's because, well, he really never made it into the original line. This was a character designed to be part of the line. Now, if you're a huge MOTUC fan, because you know everything about the brand, then you may know that he's Eldor, who was meant to be the kind of Obi-Wan Kenobi wizardy character who empowered Hero, who was going to be the lead character for the 1987 extension. Now, when we did a modern version of Hero in the Classics line at San Diego Comic-Con back in, 2009, I want to say, it jogged a lot of memories because Hero did leak out on some merchandise, on some knitting pattern kits. Yep, that's what that is. And for what limited exposure Hero had, fans recognized him and wanted to have a modern interpretation. Now, his partner in crime, Eldor, who was also shown in the 1987 catalog but never made into a figure, less well known because didn't show up in any knitting patterns. But that doesn't stop the He-Man fans from wanting one, and it was clear that even with a character whose only appearance in the entire lore was a 1987 Mattel catalog, there was demand for this character to be brought into Classics. And so from day one, we had been working towards that and getting to these characters. Now, a little bit of an offshoot, because I think it's important to note, Super 7 did a really cool, modern version of what would have been the 87 figures, even down to the original packaging files, which had been discovered a few years earlier. I want to say He-Man.org played a big role in finding that packaging, and Super 7 recreated it for their modern figures. So very cool indeed. Doesn't replace the need for a Classics figure, but, for those of you who were staring at that 87 Mattel catalog and always wanted a figure, bam. All right, but that's not what this story is about. I just figured I'd give a little background on who these characters are and why you may or may not have ever heard of them. This story is the story of the Classics version of Eldor, and he has actually some really cool secrets. Actually, some secrets that I don't think have ever been told before. Now, getting Eldor into Classics wasn't too difficult. Obviously, required the usual new pieces combined with existing parts, new head, new arms, and we included a really cool sticker sheet with both Heroic Warrior and Evil Warrior stickers. So now every character in your Classics line could have a sticker, not just the factions like Snake Man or Horde. It was cool creating faction stickers specific to the main characters. All right, but back to Eldor as a figure, obviously not that complicated. His accessories, I think, are some of the most important parts of him. He did have a removable hood, which made, two different ways you could display him, but a little bit different from the original figure, especially in the sense of the accessory for the original figure was going to have hologram stickers and was going to fold out and was going to be part of this whole play pattern. Why we didn't go in that direction? I honestly think it was just because the Horseman wanted a really cool-looking old book, and it worked cool like that with, the bookmark in it. Now, speaking of the Horseman, it's important to note that while the team was always growing and getting new members, eventually they got to the point that they were actually bringing in sculptors to do Classics figures. And Jordy, who was one of the sculptors, was a big fan of Eric. So that's Eric from the Horseman on the left there. I think that's actually Val Staples' wife on the right. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is I use that picture because he's looking straight on at the camera, and if you look at Eric in that last shot and compare it to Eldor here, yeah, Jordy, who looked up to Eric as a mentor, an Eldor, well, there's a lot of ways people can wind up becoming action figures these days. Usually you have to be either a major director or producer of IP, or actually, star in a movie. Occasionally, crazy brand managers come along and put themselves into their own toy line. I mean, I don't know who would do that. I'm looking at you, Jesse Falcon. Yep, that's you as an elf there from Lord of the Rings as the elven archer. And not only did you put yourself in the line, but gasp, you put your girlfriend in the Marvel line? Yeah, that's right. Jesse's girlfriend is Mystique. Don't look too closely or tell his wife. I mean, come on. What kind of brand manager puts himself into a toy line? God. All right, well, Jordy felt that he wanted to immortalize Eric, and he did so. He didn't tell me this till years later, that Eldor was sculpted to look like Eric. And it wasn't just the portrait sculpt that was a tribute to, I guess, his boss now, but also his mentor and someone he really looked up to. But he carved some secrets into the accessories. Now, there's obviously a spell stone in the staff, and a non-illuminated spell stone, the clear one, but you'll also notice within the structure there is a letter L. Now, you could miss this, kind of like the Emily on the log on the Dagobah Kenner playset, but it's very deliberate. Jordy put it in there because Eric's wife is Laura, and he knew that Eric really leans on Laura for support, much like the action figure of Eldor leans on his staff. So he felt that the staff would represent Laura, and then as also part of Eldor's accoutrements, he has 2 runestone sort of keys hanging off his belt, and those are the names of his kids, or at least the first initials. I don't think he wrote out the full names, but he has their initials in runestones. So the whole figure, yeah, was a cool tribute to Conan the Barbarian. I mean, to Eric Treadaway from the Four Horsemen, and the influence he had on Jordy. And when Jordy got his dream job sculpting for the Four Horsemen, one of the first things he did was sculpt the Four Horsemen as a figure. And he told me all about this. I remember over Chinese food in New York years later. And I was like, wow, I can't wait to one day do a video about this. And I guess that day is today. So, for fans of the vintage Eldor or the classics Eldor, now you know the secrets of the Wizard of Preternia.